Hi guys, I'm Katie Room from Periapsis Press.
And I'm David Room.
And I didn't. David was just remarking that I have nothing prepared. So I apologize.
It's fine because nobody's watching. So.
That's true. We've got 0 people. That's all right.
YouTube says there's 5.
So yeah, we went shopping this weekend and the weekend before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When I was tweeting about Father's Day displays in the bookstore. I was really pleased to see a large Father's Day presence at BAM in Eau Claire.
You just doxed us.
I'm sorry. We don't live there. Hi, TJ.
Just tell everybody where we're going shopping.
You'd have to stand there a long time. And then we also went to Half Price Books. So we've got a few things, and David's been collecting from various places. I'm not sure how much he's going to show today. You're going to be doing a larger sort of.
I could probably go through stuff pretty quick, like if we wanted to show.
Yeah, sure.
Show comics.
Or we could save it. It's up to you. Right.
Yeah, we'll see how much time we have.
Okay.
I don't want to turn this into like comic collecting channel. I guess. But.
Yeah. Hi, William Jeffrey Rankin. So we'll go through the books. There's not like a ton. And then I thought it would be interesting to read some of the comments that were on the last few videos that we did. They're all sort of kind of in a related topic, not to books, book hauls, but to the comments are related.
Should we do the comments first?
Sure. And then we had a couple of topic suggestions.
Yeah, let's save the book haul for the end.
Okay, sounds good.
Because I don't think we don't have as much to show or talk about.
Yeah.
I think as last time. Because last time when we did our book haul last time, we were kind of buying a lot of books we'd already read, and I think that's not the case so much this time. Yeah. So I don't think there's as much to talk about there. But it's still fun.
Yeah. Should I share this screen?
Yeah, I don't think. Is there anything private on that particular screen? You just got to be careful not to click around too much in.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Why don't you?
Okay. Okay. Oh, I see.
Yeah, we've had some really good comments on our videos lately that are worth talking about.
Yeah.
A little bit more, and we kind of like to have a longer discussion about things that are worth talking more about. So I think that's it's a good place to talk.
So the 3 videos that are getting more of the comments are Video Games Cause Violence. That's the one where we actually went through Matt Walsh's video. Fighting the Indie Stigma, which is what we just did. And Book Covers AI and another anti-fun conservative. Do you want to start?
Let's just go right from the top down.
Right from the top down. Yeah. So these would be the most recent comments then.
Yeah. Just okay. I'm just thinking so we don't lose track of what we talked about, what we didn't.
Yeah. Monogatari.
Monogatari, right? Like the anime?
Madoka.
Like the anime that you watched all of? Repeatedly.
It's very visually striking. This is in response to us addressing Matt Walsh's video.
Mm-hmm.
Right here is the obvious trap Matt Walsh sets.
Did you watch what that spot was that he tagged? I can
do you
go.
want to just
I
take
can
a
go
peek?
look at it just quick. You just keep talking.
I've always despised Matt Walsh. There is no wit or charm in his sarcasm. His entire persona of a superior than thou 1950s father figure, scolding to everyone who views his content, is viciously intended to upset people, especially people on the far left who have cliche issues with their father. It's an obvious psych trap he sets, and it's obnoxious.
Yeah. I'll try to bring up what that spot was just quick. I'm not going to share my screen. I'm just going to play it from our side so I can tell what it was.
Comparing it anime as a whole to toddler shows, like literal.
Oh.
One of the gamer shows. What about Coco Melon? A bizarre, deranged.
Oh yeah, see that was the
yeah.
spot where he was like he was talking about it was kind of like when he was sort of trying to downplay what he had said about anime being satanic by like making these goofy comparisons, like talking about Cocomelon like it was some kind of weird satanic thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of his shtick, is to sort of be vague, kind of plausible deniability about what he's saying, say something and then kind of backpedal by covering it up and like not being serious about it.
And he does take on a persona. I don't know if I would say like a father figure, but
it's kind of I kind of understand that it's kind of like that weird sarcastic kind of when dad humor goes wrong kind of thing. I can see that for sure. Like when you're trying to ask your dad a serious question and he's just saying stuff to be funny but also to kind of annoy you. That's a good description, I think.
The Anarchist Bible Study replied to Fighting the Indie Stigma with, if you see a guy deriding nihilistic art, just jump on and promo your book. Who knows, maybe he'll start an outrageously long list out of your records. This is in reference to when I retweeted him complaining about nihilistic art, I think with a meme about nihilism.
Yeah.
And he just got a flood of indie authors coming through my retweet to post about their art, and he was thrilled, right? Because he's one of us. But
yeah, be careful who you comment on.
you want to make sure that somebody who welcomes the recommendations. On Fighting the Indie Stigma, Michael of St. Joseph commented, personalized aggregators are severely underutilized. They used to be much more popular on the internet before everything was centralized and algorithmized. If you know the person making recommendations, that is sufficient to align with taste. I do believe there's an objective standard in writing and storytelling, but I don't think any one person has it.
Yeah, and that aligns pretty much with what we were saying. I think the idea of personalized aggregators is a neat thing to bring up. So that's like back in the day, people used to have RSS readers where you could basically subscribe to blogs, and then you would just have like a feed that just showed everything. And, I would say, there is an algorithmic layer, like he's saying, on Twitter. But I mean, you're also in charge of your own Twitter experience. And the following feed is should be pretty much just the tweets of the people that you follow in order or lists. So you can actually, if you really want to see just specific things, you can curate things pretty well just with Twitter.
Yep, and you can make groups.
Yep.
Groups are really useful for that
Groups.
kind of thing.
But even just lists, right? Lists, and then
That's what I meant.
Oh, you meant lists.
I meant lists.
Yeah. Yep. Because like following is just a list of the people that you follow.
Right.
Now the way it's treated in the following tab for you is kind of where it adds the algorithmic layer. So yeah, following, you can turn off retweets from people. It's something I do a lot to kind of keep those things under control, and you can actually make pretty good feeds of what you want to see, even on Twitter. Especially now how all of your lists are just sort of accessible at the top. You don't have to poke through menus to find the different lists anymore. You could make like a list of book recommendations or something.
Yeah.
And then
it is still, you still have to wade through all of the stuff that isn't like what you made the list for, right? Like I have lists of authors, and I have lists of reviewers, and I have lists of artists, but everybody posts about all kinds of things. So you do still have to wade through politics.
Yeah, there's other features though too, like the top articles feature that you get if you subscribe to Twitter Blue.
Yeah,
would be a good kind of RSS feed type thing, because it's like article links that people are sharing.
Yeah.
So
I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is a nice feature. I know not everybody is Twitter Blue, but I don't know. To me, $8 is not a lot to spend for the amount of utility and enjoyment that I get out of Twitter. So some of those features like top articles can help. It would be cool if there were ways to build kind of RSS feed type stuff. But it seems like people don't blog too much anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure. People mention RSS in spam comments all the time still. Didn't even know that was a thing, right? Like before I started blogging.
Yeah, I mean, like on my website, where there's the blog roll, that's RSS.
Yeah.
So.
Responding to book covers AI and another anti-fun conservative, Fiona Wolf says, to be frank, Common America is female brain oriented. Plus, I like Black Ops just a bit more. And that was kind of my impression of it when I read it. Was like, oh, this is a great story for girls. I appreciate.
You read the first one, right?
Yeah. I may have read the other one that you.
And I couldn't. I was kind of the opposite. I couldn't really get into Black Ops. I thought at least the first few books of Common America were kind of compelling in that they seemed to be really leaning heavily into this like particular themes that the authors were trying to convey. I mean, it's like if you don't like message fiction, you really probably would not like Common America. I thought I don't really have a problem with that, so I thought it was pretty interesting. Black Ops was just like animals doing stuff, and I didn't find that super compelling.
I replied to her that I think so too. I enjoyed the first couple of Common America. Well, I also like Black Ops, but maybe because I like animal companion characters.
Edwin Boyett prefers Black Ops because he's got a cameo in it. So I'll have to look and see if I could find that. I remember seeing a few different people in Common America, so I've got to. Now that I'm a little bit more familiar with that, with some of these scenes, I need to go through and kind of look for some of those.
Wow, since I've been on my other screen, a whole bunch of people have come in.
Yeah.
Oh man. Did I say hi to Timo and Michael Caine? And
everyone's here.
Then Christopher Benkhaus, Red Hypo,
and
Doug Wise.
Yeah, we got a full house here.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
This is really fun for us. We don't have a lot of friends in real life who are into this scene, so it's really fun just to be able to hang out with you guys for a little bit once a week.
The Ultimate Kahuna commented on my unboxing in search of Sacha. Is that how you pronounce it? Or Saka?
I think it's Sasha or
Sasha.
or
Sure.
Sacha.
And the caretaker. What a beautiful cover. And I assume he's talking about Sacha. And then he also asks about David's books and paperback format, which is in the works, in the plan. Maybe not in the works, in the plan. So it's just not available yet.
Yeah, and it's not super high on my priority list right now. I would really like to get them out, and I'm always like intending to do it, but just other things come up. The big thing that happened this year was I got a new job. So a lot of my time has been, and sort of mental energy has been taken up by that, and I've just been kind of letting myself do random things that I want to, rather than trying to like do this and that for my project, and I'm just having a lot of fun. So we'll get to it when I get to it. Plus, I don't have any new books to release anytime soon. I might next year, and I'm kind of thinking about saving the paperbacks of my current books for closer to when I would be putting something new out, so I could kind of get some release momentum going. But then I could also do things like put new covers on them when I re-release stuff, or like re-edit or add different things. So we got all kinds of questions in the chat about that.
Do you want to talk about them right now?
Sure, as long as we're talking about my books.
Yeah,
let's do it. Edwin mentioned that he thought Uriel's Revenge has a strong start, but he hasn't had the chance to read it all the way through yet. Yeah, Edwin read the first little bit of my story, and it sounded really good. So someday I'm going to have to get him to I have this vision of doing like some cool visual art, like trailers and things for my project in the future. I might have to see if I can get him to do some voiceover for that that stuff sometime, because I really liked he has very epic way of reading, which is a little different than I imagined my prose sounding, but it's really cool. So I might have to reach out to him for that in the future. And then William Jeffrey Rankin asks, is David using the publishing system used for Periapsis Christmas? And yes, yeah. I wrote that software for writing and publishing my books. I've used it for all my books, and Periapsis Christmas was the first time that I've used it for something that I didn't write. So now I can take some of that functionality back to my own to my own stuff soon. And Doug Wise mentioned that Uriel's Revenge has a pretty sweet cover for being digital only. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate it. I don't want to talk up my own work too much, because I think it's a little bit more interesting to talk about other people's stuff, but I was pretty happy with how that cover turned out. And it's kind of the second iteration of it. The first one wasn't terrible, but it wasn't as nice. I kind of learned a lot from looking at other books and what other people were doing, and I was able to make a nice revision to it, I think. So, and the funny thing too is I use my own software for making the covers too. So I don't use anything like Photoshop or Krita or GIMP. I have software that just loads images, and I program it. I just write code that says composite this image here and composite this text here.
He's not clicking and dragging.
I'm not. I really hate the idea of spending a long time on a project clicking around in something. I'd rather write code and then be able to reuse it and remix it and kind of know when I rerun that code it's going to do the same thing. So that's how I like to do a lot of my serious work is in code. So that's how my covers are done too.
Stormcrow asks if I hear that Kitsunche has a sequel to Swordbreaker in the works. I thought that he had already published several. Let's look here. It looks that like 2 and 3 are already available.
Yeah, because the first one came out a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although the cover for the second one has been updated, I notice, and it looks a lot better. Cool. Yeah, I'd like to keep reading in that series. My TBR pile is huge. TJ's comment. You literally developed AI art without developing AI.
Let's finish up our comments.
Yeah.
I want to get to Iowa and Cap's comment about on the video game.
Yeah.
Video.
Christopher Menkhaus, sorry. Interesting talk. So many series get rebranded after the first hardcover. Ted Williams' Shadow March and Brent Weeks' Lightbringer series are two where the first edition hardcovers are radically different than the other books in the series.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. Multiverse Books, which is TJ, looks like, says another great one. Weird time to be a little indie.
And that was on the book covers AI.
Yes,
video.
those both on the book covers AI. Right, here's the big one.
Yeah.
From the Anarchist Bible Study on Video Games Cause Violence. Didn't intend this, but it kind of became my live chat instead of a comment. He was giving me grief because I forgot to post that we were going live with this, and it's right up his alley. We're new to screen sharing, and then you bag on me when I waste a mere 20 minutes trying to show a 5-minute video clip.
That was kind of funny. I think that's a reference to when we were on.
I think so.
Right, yeah.
I do want to maybe agree with him to an extent with video games. I know you can, and I do, play video games in moderation for fun and to blow off steam. Far be it from me to belittle that. But man, there's a real problem in our world of young men using it as a fake accomplishment. It's a huge problem and only getting worse, and I think it has to be taken on. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, I think especially in our particular, like, I don't want to generalize too much, so I'll talk specifically about I think our little corner of the world. So, like Christians on Twitter who are maybe like more reformed, Calvinist, conservative, evangelical, kind of like talking about sort of with kind of maybe like a red pill bent, right? I think in our sphere, for every voice that's saying like what we're saying, that's like video games are nice, there's like 100, there's like 10 people who are saying that same thing about video games just being like a false, like a trap for young men and stuff like that. So I agree with that, but I just feel like it's being said a lot already, and that's not something that I feel like I need to talk about.
Yeah, and I think I responded to this comment, sort of saying that I feel, particularly when you come across this opinion in the church, it seems like the urge is to treat the symptom, somebody spending a lot of time playing video games, and not the underlying problem, because it's easier. So if someone is not, if they are avoiding their responsibilities in a way that is a negative form of escaping, and to the point of detriment to responsibilities, there may be stress involved. There's going to be some, like, there's some larger problem.
Yeah.
It's very, I mean, yes, an addiction is a thing, but a lot of times people use addiction to treat other things that are going on in their lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, and this is a big discussion, and I don't want to, like, I'm not an expert and I don't like psychologizing. I don't want to psychologize too much, but I think that when this kind of thing gets brought up, it's sort of like, and I'm not saying that this is what Iwan Camp is doing, but I'm going to push back on this a little bit because he's our friend. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who bring that kind of thing up, and yeah, like Katie said, their attitude is like, you know, video games are the problem. Well, or like men just need to man up, and I really hate that whole men just need to man up. So I kind of tend to have a knee-jerk reaction to things that sound like that.
Yeah.
And I think when you start saying, when you're talking about this argument of like video games being a false sense of achievement, it's totally understandable. But part of the problem is that, you know, I think the reason that a lot of men might really enjoy video games is because their life, they don't have a sense of achievement in their life. And it's not as simple as just, oh, do something where you have a sense of achievement. You can easily be in a situation where basically the odds are stacked against you, and you're not in a situation where you can say, like, have a meaningful job that you have, like, so I think when he talks about video games being this false sense of achievement, like, video games are very good at sort of giving you a feeling of like a sense of progression or completing a project, you know, like especially these open world games where you like check things off, or like RPGs where you're leveling up, or even just stuff, or even just beating a game stuff. Like you beat a game, you feel like you accomplished something, right? A lot of people aren't in a situation where they have jobs that let them feel like that, right? A lot of people are in jobs that feel dumb and pointless. A lot of people are not in good, like, cost of living skyrocketing, you know. A lot of people, you know, people are graduating from college, like, and are like, I'm never going to be able to afford to buy a house, right? They're a lot of people aren't in a position in life where they can have that real life sense of accomplishment. And I think it's a little bit unfair to just say, well, you need to just get over it. And I'm not saying that this is what Iwan Cap is saying, but like, you can't just flip a switch and necessarily go from, you know, instead of accomplishing things in a video game, accomplish things in real life.
And again, that kind of goes back to what I was saying, where it's like, it's far, far easier for somebody to say, don't play video games, than it is to say, here's what you should do in order to feel a sense of accomplishment in your own life. Like, here's a practical, you know.
Yeah. And the thing is that even a lot of those things that, say you're sort of stuck in a stupid job, and you're not in a position financially where you can be working towards accomplishing different life goals and things. So you can't, you know, there are a lot of things that a person could do to have a sense of accomplishment, like having like personal fun hobbies and projects and stuff where you can get a sense like you're working towards something, like writing or creating other kinds of art or things. But as we've seen, this, again, like, for every one voice like ours who is saying these things are good, these things are worthwhile, there's like 10 voices who are saying the opposite. And again, I'm not saying Iowa ANCAP is, because he's a good friend and he's on the same page as us with a lot of this stuff. But for every person like Iowa ANCAP who's saying this, there are people who would say, yeah, you shouldn't play video games, and also you shouldn't be writing a novel,
right? Or
you shouldn't be drawing a comic, or you shouldn't be, you know, you shouldn't be painting Warhammer figures, or you shouldn't be writing a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. That's all stupid, childish, dumb stuff. And the only worthwhile thing is making money for your family.
Right.
Right.
And
I think it's fair for me to make that critique, because I'm saying that for people that are like in our corner
Right.
of the world.
yeah. And I think the idea of a video game as a healthy hobby, it relates to other healthy hobbies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of those things that David just mentioned, right? The sense of accomplishment it's tangibly the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have physical products at the end of some of them, and some of them you don't, right? It's not
on a totally different planet.
Right.
I tend to kind of think of creating things like doing your own writing or things like that as a little bit nobler of a pursuit than just consuming. But I think there's a place for everything, especially, when you're creating, you want to consume things to find inspiration and to just relax, right?
Yeah.
All of these things, like if you're like me and you work a job that's very mentally strenuous, and then you're also, you're pursuing hobbies where you're creating things that's also mentally strenuous, it's good to be able to have things that are just way to relax your mind, right? But I think a lot of these kinds of people who make that kind of argumentation basically don't think none of that stuff is valuable.
Yeah.
And of course, we're not saying that's what IO-ANCAP is. I would just, your average Joe on the street deploys that kind of argument, and I would start asking questions, and I think I'd probably find out pretty quick that they don't really think that there's any value in any of that stuff.
Right.
So
yeah.
Yeah, Doug Wise also points out, a creator needs consumers. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why there's that cycle, right? The people who don't think consuming is valuable often don't think that creating is valuable.
Yeah. IO-ANCAP goes on to say, I'm a big fan of amusement versus enjoyment. One is mindless. Do you understand that?
So like he's saying, he's making a dichotomy between amusement and enjoyment.
Yeah.
And amusement is mindless and enjoyment is joy-inducing.
Okay.
So, he's saying it's a typo. A is no, muse is mind. So amusement is like no mind.
Oh, okay. Got it. The other is joy-inducing. Not to say video games can't be enjoyment, but the longer you do it, the more it saps the joy and leaves you dead and worthless. But yeah, video games cause violence. Tipper Gore called and wants her talking points back. Matt Walsh is a 90s Democrat.
Yeah. And of course, that doesn't mean the argument is right or wrong, but
Right.
it's an interesting thing.
Also, did you notice what he did with George, who has a large social media following? Apparently, that's the high status reframe. I'm too important for this nonsense. Or like, well, it must be relatively large audience, right? Like, that's the other way to read into that. It's very condescending for sure. But also, you guys are friends with George. Can you get him to stop using puritanical as an insult?
I mean, we're not like close friends with George.
Yeah.
So and I'm, I think he's allowed to say what he wants. I always cringe a little bit when somebody uses, puritanical as an insult, but it's one of those things that it definitely has a meaning in our culture outside of, maybe what positive ideas we might have about reform, about Puritans as reformed people.
I don't think people even think about Puritans when they use
puritanical. It's kind of like Pharisee, like that ass clown last week who was saying that it was like using the word Pharisee was anti-Semitic or something. And it was like, and it's like, okay, well, at this point, Pharisee means something completely separate from what like what it originally means. And there's like so many words like that.
Yeah. I have good memories of RuneScape with my bros, good times. Fatherlessness is probably more to blame for the violence. And I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't Calvinists all believe that humans are robots and don't believe in the gospel?
What?
I'm not sure at what point he is responding to each of these things.
I know we talked at one point about how we probably have like different ideas about the the sin at play.
Oh yeah.
In things, as opposed to Matt Walsh, because we're Calvinists and he's Catholic.
Yeah.
So.
Hogwarts Legacy, you're fighting people literally bathing.
There's literally trans characters in Hogwarts, like major characters in Hogwarts Legacy who are trans.
I gotta say, the Daily Wire cruise ad reads are Jeff and I dream of this. Good show, enjoyed it. I think I may be more of a stick in the mud than you two, but hopefully not to a fault. Now, excuse me, I need to go play some Pokemon Red. All right.
I think that was pretty much it as far as.
Well, I must have clicked on a video.
Yeah. I think
Matthew Pilgrim. This was a great stream. You both were very substantive. I think it's a good work to stand against this Philistinism that is attempting to engulf our side as being the party line. I very much agree with this worldview that posits that the meaning and height of life. Oh, I very much disagree. Sorry, with this worldview that posits that the meaning and height of life is to be a dedicated worker whose sole aim is to sweat, labor, and reproduce the next crop of dedicated workers whose sole aim is to sweat, labor, and reproduce the next crop, etc. I know exactly what you're talking about when you describe your experience with Final Fantasy VII, and I can't imagine going through life without having been open to appreciate something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If Walsh ever read Fahrenheit 451, he took the wrong lesson from it.
I've gone back and watched some bits of that stream, and I'm really proud of what we said about things. I'd like to snip the little part when I was talking about Final Fantasy VII for a short or something, because I think I conveyed what I wanted to really well there.
And then Herbie Husker, 1889, said anime is degenerate, and that was my first comment on that video.
Yeah, well, his mom is a degenerate, so.
All right, that's the end of that.
Did we want to talk about the other topic questions that people had?
Oh, John.
Yeah, and I was going to point out that John wonders if we want to. I guess I'd say he can come on.
Yeah,
if we want. I think we've got two topic questions that people asked about on Twitter. Because and I definitely want to get to those.
Yep.
But I think
John, can I send it to you on Twitter? I've got Twitter up
I'm
here.
assuming that would be a good place to send it to him, because I don't know. Is there a private message system on YouTube?
I don't know how to access it from StreamYard if there is.
He says yes, so.
Okay.
And I think you should put him through the speakers of your laptop, right? I think that would be less likely to have feedback than
yours.
Put it through mine.
Okay. So just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Ooh. Oh, I did star that when John first came on. I didn't want to bring it up because we were in the middle of something, but he just dropped a new video, and apparently my tweet was used in it. So after we finish, you guys should go check that out.
Yeah. We have definitely a lot of very important things to say here.
Right.
So.
Very, very important. So just 2 comments. Michael Kane mentioned, he said, not to dredge up an old conversation, but did you see this? And it is Jim Butcher's Stormfront cover for Audible, or it's on Audible.
Yeah.
The link that he sent.
You should just do a Google image search for Jim Butcher Stormfront and make sure to put the Jim Butcher in there. And then just share that tab for
this one. Does that look like what you're expecting?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's just a lot of options here.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try to, while we're looking at this, I was gonna try to go back to because I think it was David Stewart's that shared that image, and yeah, some people were saying, well, he was saying looks like a downgrade, and then somebody said, well, then he retweeted and said this was a cover from the year 2000. And I was looking at this because sometimes they do slightly different like edits of the cover for Audible. Hey, we should say
hi, John.
Good evening. How's everyone doing?
We're doing great.
I happened to catch you guys as I was premiering a new video for indie creators, and saw y'all were live. What's going on this evening?
Not a heck of a lot.
Yeah, so there's no big drama this week.
Yeah.
So we can stir some up.
Yeah, I know. We missed our chance. We had a nice weekend instead of rabble rousing. So we are just looking at some comments. We're looking at some viewer suggested topics now, and then we're going to do a tiny little book haul. But yeah, somebody brought up the cover downgrade for Jim Butcher's Stormfront.
I don't think it's just Jim Butcher. I ain't gonna lie. I actually mentioned that in the video I just dropped, that the downgrade of covers coming out of book publishers these days is pretty pathetic. There's just it's almost zero effort at times, and the indie fantasy market is just absolutely killing it. They're eating their lunch and shoving them in the locker.
Yeah. And anyway, so just the backstory with this cover. So David Stewart said apparently this was the cover from the year 2000. And I was looking at this, and I think it's a little bit different because the Wikipedia article for Stormfront has a cover that looks kind of like it, but is also a bit different. It honestly,
here it is. This is the one, right?
So that's the Audible cover that everybody's ragging on.
But it's you can see that it's a little bit different from this one.
It's almost like an intern remade the original cover.
Yeah.
Like, it's bad. I don't know what happened there.
From memory.
Yeah, because the original one, it is kind of it's got the nice, we called out that font that is used on Jim Butcher's books has been used, I'm assuming, since this one, because this is the first Dresden File book, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so you can see it's got that font. The Audible one, it's just a generic. It's like just a generic sans serif font with like the big round letters and stuff.
Yeah, it's
it's not.
An attempt was made.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It's almost like they loaded up a Photoshop file or something, and it was like linked out to fonts, like this used to happen a long time ago with web pages, like linked out to specific fonts, and those fonts weren't found on the system, so it fell back to like a generic.
I'll be honest. I think a lot of Jim Butcher's covers, not to say they're bad, they are a little plain. Most of them are just Dresden on the front.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, what's behind the covers aren't what's selling the books. My God, he's got how many at this point? I've never read any Jim Butcher. No shade on him. I just never got around to him.
And I like I kind of like covers that have a person on the front. I mean, it's like the Dresden Files are about Dresden.
Yeah.
So it's like having the character on the front is like, okay, this is kind of a character focused story.
They're not very dynamic. He stands with it. That's true. But at least there's something on the cover. Like a lot of modern covers are just words.
Words, yeah.
Very generic symbols that are easily like easy to find stock photos kinds of things.
Yeah, art assets that the interns at the marketing found and kind of slung together and it works. That's why so many people they were probably really excited when AI art started coming out there, because then they could do even less work in order to create generic covers. And I remember when I first came into reading fantasy, what really got me was the covers. It was those beautiful oil paintings and the stuff that really reaches out and grabs you by the throat. I've got one right here. Here's a couple. I got a couple classics on my bookshelf. Like that was my first fantasy, The Crystal Shard.
Oh yeah.
That was good. This was what kept me in the fantasy genre, was this cover for Dragons of Autumn Twilight.
Oh, cool.
And then I bought this one based on the cover alone. And this was interesting. This was Mary Gentle's Grunts.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all have ever heard of or read this. It was.
Are those goblins or something on there?
Those are orcs. This might have been the start of my infatuation with orcs.
Yeah.
This is kind of like to fantasy what The Boys is to superheroes.
Sure.
Like, this is a complete black comedy takedown of the fantasy genre, centered around orcs. It kind of falls apart at the end, but there's a lot of really interesting stuff in here.
That cover really reminds me of the a lot of the Magic the Gathering art for the Goblin cards. Where they're kind of like doing silly stuff, and it's like it's very visually compelling. Those cards. So
I have some books that I bought for covers alone.
Fantasy stuff you're looking for.
Yep.
Oh yeah, definitely this one. The Sword of Shannara, right?
Ooh.
I know this is a lot of people really like this book. This isn't it's probably not like a great book, but it's a great cover.
I was about to ask, because I've never seen one of I've never read the Sword of Shannara.
Yep.
Although it's definitely
gorgeous wizards first rule.
It is, and it's such a shame that Terry Goodkind was like, he had such a bug up his butt about being associated with the fantasy genre.
Yep.
But
William Jeffrey Rankin was wondering if that was a Hildebrand cover for Sword of Shannara, and it is.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. The Hildebrands did a bunch of really cool artwork for Star Wars, and it makes me mad because there's like an art book of theirs, and it's super expensive because it didn't have a very big print run, but it's really cool. Cool stuff.
I bought this right off the shelf. It's book 3 in a novel adaptation of a comic book.
Oh, it looks nice. Yeah.
Doesn't it look gorgeous?
It does. And see, that's the kind of stuff that really just grabs me by the throat, makes me want to buy sight unseen. I've got a couple of indie books that the cover was the selling point. This one was a good one. Paladin Unbound by Jeffrey Spate. This it's about a book about his it's a really good adventure book about his half orc paladin Umar the Peacebreaker, who you can see centered right there on the front. Words really don't do this justice. It's
cool.
A gorgeous cover to look at. this grimdark book, one of my favorites that I've kind of got me into the genre a little bit, The Hellborn King by Christopher Brenning. And this artist is the one that's going to be making the cover for my book, The Black Friars.
Cool.
So, provided I get enough shifts at work to be able to pay for it. It's not inexpensive, but it's this is the kind of that's what I've come to expect, especially old school fans. Is that level of quality when it comes to the covers, that it's really, modern artists like Felix Ortiz, who are really just, I tried to get him and he was booked up until next summer. He's booked a year in advance. That guy is so busy.
Oh, man.
So anyone out there who's got an indie book coming out, please, if you want Felix Ortiz covers, you better book him now before you even finish the book. I'm going to try and tweet out that I'm streaming with you guys.
Yeah, there's definitely a different set of expectations from.
Just you should throw up the storm front again, just so we can wrap that up.
Yeah, from indie readers than there are from traditionally published readers right now. I think covers like these used to be far more common, and now the covers that you see are very, very generic, very, very basic.
They're cheap. That's the thing. I understand why they do it.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, but it's also uninspiring. And for the kinds of genres that these covers are made for, you really should have something dynamic, or at the very least really nice and pretty to look at. I used an AI art thing to come up with a cover in like 5 minutes, and it would function. But
they're good at, the AI stuff is good at making striking compositions, which is more than you can say for a lot of these things. And I think part of what's made indie covers kind of go bland is that there's multiple purposes to covers, and one of them could be trying to look like a traditionally published book. So if traditionally published covers are going bland, and the indie books who are trying to do that are going to follow. But I think we share the opinion that you can do more with your cover than just try to make it look like a traditionally published book.
Yeah, indies is definitely leading the way back to a better place. I mentioned that in the video I just posted. The indie covers are eating their lunch, and eventually the trad pubs, they will kind of come around to it, and they'll try to mimic what's being done. But the indie authors are already they're already making stuff to market, and they can make stuff to market at a much quicker pace. I use this as an example in a recent tweet. The harem and the lit RPG genre, they are exploding because the authors know what their audience wants and they deliver it unfailingly. And epic fantasy can kind of be like that. You've got different subgenres, so like depending on what you want, it's going to depend on the kind of cover you grab. Some are a little more plain than others, but they can work for what they're trying to do. Let's see, I've got these kind of stand out a little bit. These are Portal Fantasy by Rob Rhimes. These are nice. These are cute little really thin pulp style novels. There's the first book, Dan the Destructor.
Yeah, Katie's got the first one. She's reading it right now.
Yeah, that's right. We're doing the book club thing, right? Yeah. I've also got the sequel, Atomic Beast, Somewhere to Kill Them, which is a really cool title.
I love that title.
Me too. And I just picked up. I thought this was the third one. This is an anthology, Eyes and All Shadows, which these, when you put them together, they really kind of catch the eye.
Yeah.
Nothing
even though complicated. Yeah.
Right.
It looks good.
And they're not complicated to read, so it kind of makes sense. Like this really hits a bit of a theme here, especially when you see them all together in the tweets that he has. So he's made something that's technically on a plain side work in a way that makes it look a little more dynamic.
And it communicates something. It communicates something about what kind of book it is too, right?
Yes.
The cover. I think the cover should, it should communicate something.
Mhm.
Right? It's an
That's a good
opportunity to
point.
communicate.
Yeah, that's
And
a good point.
You see a book that looks like that, and you immediately think, "Oh, that's Rob Rhymes," right?
Mhm.
Like it has a visual presence to it that is
Mhm.
associated with his brand.
You know, you look at that, you know, it's not epic fantasy, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's not epic fantasy. You know, it's got a little. It's probably, you know, his titles are humorous, so you know a little bit about what to expect. It's really good stuff.
That's where some of the Lord of the Rings covers kind of fell a little flat for me. Like this is the classic cover for The Hobbit, and it works well enough. But what does this communicate? You know, and
Yeah.
this is I think it's one of the rare cases where the title and the author are selling the book, because at this point everybody knows The Hobbit, everybody knows Lord of the Rings and J.R. Tolkien.
Yep.
That's marginally better.
that's
But
Tolkien's art.
That's
right?
like pre-genre kind of a cover.
One of my favorite pieces of art ever is this cover to Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh, that's not bad.
And that's Tolkien's own illustration of Hobbiton.
Yeah, I've got that.
And then there's this one.
Yeah. Yeah, that very
Hey.
No, you know what this is. You know what this is. That's Barad-dûr. It's a very not very inspiring Barad-dûr.
I got this thing right here, and I got to tell you, this is beautiful right here. This is a Christmas gift from my wife.
Yeah. And that's his original cover design for Lord of the Rings, actually.
Yeah, that was a nice little thing. On the inside, it's got the map. It's got the illustrations that he had. This is just a beautiful book.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Is it painted on the edge?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's got the script of the ring on it, which I will not utter here.
Here's something really different.
They're all like this. What am I reading?
It looks like a Soviet release of it or something. It's not, right? It's just,
man, very esoteric.
I bought them because I was like, I have to have these. I don't know.
We should.
I definitely need a version of it to read, like in my hand, because I never finished reading them. I got to Return of the King and I kind of put them down. I had this old one. It was an omnibus of all 3 books. It was huge, and it had this really smooth paper that smelled funny. I don't know where to get it from, but I lost that in the flood. I never finished reading it. That was Tolkien, and I have to do a review of this someday. Tolkien's a very different kind of prose. Like he was a master of the English language, but he wrote a story unlike anything I've ever read. I mean, especially if you're someone who started reading books in the 80s and 90s with modern editorial processes, and kind of like, hey, get to the point here. Like that was a lot of times I'm reading The Lord of the Rings going, where are you going with this?
Why are we talking about flowers again?
Yeah.
They sat down and talked to Farmer Maggot for like a whole chapter. Like, and that was about the point I kind of realized, not real big on the action, this guy.
Is there any conclusions we want to draw about the whole Stormfront cover art? I mean, I'm seeing a lot of variations. It's a pretty interesting book to look at just for how many different variations you can make on that same cover, even like different fonts of the same art. But yeah, I mean, what went wrong with that Audible one? I don't know. It's really they must have tried to redo the original one and just did a really poor job of it.
I mean, they're just trying to save something at the last, save a few bucks at the last minute and didn't want to put in the effort. Like that's definitely just assets.
Yeah. It's
assets
like they
slung together.
Out pieces and recomposited. Like this original cover.
It's the same. It's the same assets as the original, but it's got like the original one has lightning. The new one doesn't.
It just doesn't.
I guess they kind of figure if it's just for an Audible cover, why go through all the trouble? And a lot of people probably won't even pay attention to it. How much do you want to spend versus what do you really need?
Yo,
they need to do better.
Photo
right.
bashing, yes.
All right,
Photo
we have
bashing.
one more topic.
I want to make sure to get to that since we said we were going to do
Yep.
that. Wilderness researchers asked us if we wanted to discuss the defense or debate of Christian horror versus Philippians 4:8.
Yeah, and Philippians 4:8, of course, is the, finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is good. If there is anything excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Right. I think I know how I would address this.
I think I probably would end up falling back on sort of the old horror works best when it's Christian, right? Like from a Christian worldview, because it challenges you to seek those good things.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that you shouldn't even think about things that are unpleasant, that's not the point of those verses.
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of tend to read that verse, and maybe I'm biased, but I tend to read it as kind of like dwell on those things.
Yeah.
Right. And I think what I would the way I would sort of take it is like, what is, because you can write horror that sort of dwells on bad things, or you can write horror that kind of touches on bad things but dwells on good things.
Sure.
And I think you could call like good art pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, noble,
Mhm.
right? Even in its portrayal of evil.
Yeah.
So like just writing like something dark doesn't necessarily mean that it's not those things.
Right. And the portrayal of evil as evil is true.
Yeah. And good.
Right.
I mean, the Bible itself, there's a lot of really horrendous things in the Bible that are, the Bible is portraying things the way they're supposed to be portrayed. So
and good fiction, including horror, should equip the reader to you're escaping into this story, but you must return, and you should return equipped to deal with things that are in your life, and our lives are broken. So there are bad things, horrific things, and fiction helps us to work through those, to understand them, to gather ourselves to make the courageous choices. So just because there is not perfect depictions of even of Christian characters, right, that we wouldn't say that those things that's automatically bad or wrong or not worthy.
You have anything to contribute to this, John?
Oh, well, from my and I've never read a whole lot of Christian fiction. I did read a couple of Frank Peretti books back in the day, and I know.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Now I read his Piercing the Darkness and Above the Darkness, which are the two spiritual warfare ones, and I've always loved stories about spiritual warfare. And then he kind of moved into being basically a Christian version of the Stephen King, and at the time, really those didn't interest me all that much, so I didn't read them. I was more at that time getting into fantasy and science fiction. So, and the closest I ever really came to reading horror is I read Stephen King's The Dark Tower series. So everybody else loved reading King, and I've soured on him over time as a person, and especially anyway, I'm not going to get on a king rant here. That's a whole other thing. From my perspective, always when I think about the Bible and things, the Bible is always very clear about making sure that we're not supposed to fear evil things. We are supposed to be bold and standing up to evil as it presents itself. Yes, evil can manifest itself in scary ways, but the Bible's always clear. The one we're supposed to fear is God. We're supposed to fear God's power and God's retribution, and utilize that power for ourselves against evil. Evil is we are not supposed to be afraid of evil. Evil is supposed to be afraid of us, and we have to be the kind of bold and powerful Christians to stand up to evil and give, declare that evil has no power over us. Because when you think about the way evil manifests itself, especially in the old days, some of the most horrific things you can read in the Bible were all things that God did to people who did not keep his word, his faith, or his testament. What's the word I'm looking for?
His law.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Sodom and Gomorrah is one. That was the plagues of Egypt. Would read like a horror story if you were an Egyptian.
Well, and there's even other things like this too, right? So like you have God, and I think, whether or not you're like a Calvinist like us, a lot of people would sort of agree with this. Like you have in the Bible, you have God, for example, like using the Assyrians to punish Israel. So like the Assyrians are like a not good, they're evil, right? But God is actually using that evil force for his purposes. And I think this is like something that you can kind of see as a Christian reading even more kind of nihilistic fiction. I've talked about this before, like with H.P. Lovecraft. Like when you read H.P. Lovecraft, he's sort of like atheist type, kind of looking at this world, and he has a really depressing worldview, and he sees like all these horrible monsters that are, so far beyond us. But like me as a Christian reading H.P. Lovecraft, I can just sort of say, like, I can read it still in a Christian worldview and be like, okay, God is still in control of Cthulhu and all of the elder gods, and they're doing these evil things, but he's using them for his purposes, right? So I think there's like that element of it too, where God can use evil for his purposes, and you could kind of write horror fiction, and that's something that I've tried to do with my books. Like you can write horror fiction that kind of has that tact to it, even if it gets pretty dark.
Yeah, the things. I don't really have anything to add to that. That was well said. I don't know what the state of Christian horror is at the moment, but when you look at how things like that were seen in the old days, how evil manifests itself in these days is through mankind. Of course, it did in the old days as well. But to me, a lot of people like to, especially entertainment and Hollywood, they've kind of defanged the devil a little bit, and viewed him. Everyone thinks the devil, they think of a little red guy and a pitchfork, and he comes up and occasionally tries to trick you. Really, the devil tries to come at you through the lens of something you want. I always thought of like the two sides of the force was a really good example of that particular binary, because the dark side was very enticing, because it was a quick path to get what you wanted. It required emotion, but it required emotion, and you could become a evil person through good intentions, and that is a theme that has gone through throughout history for a long time. But it always is also something that requires you to sacrifice something, or in the Sith's case, someone important to you, so that you can essentially kind of kill your love. And that kind of sacrifice is kind of something that gets carried through in real life as well. Like in order for something evil to flourish, something good about you has to die too. And there's always redemption with God. There's always redemption, but it's the fight to recognize that evil and fight against it that is truly at the heart of the battle between good and evil.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah, Christopher Meckhouse. Yeah, Adam Lane Smith was building it. He was doing really good, and then I noticed he kind of found his calling with the relationship advice, which is his day job. And he's I mentioned that one time, and he said, "Yeah, it was a shame, but he said everybody else can take the throne, the torch, and run with it." Adam, we miss you, bro.
Yeah.
Fun fact: he actually lives not super far away from us, so we've gotten together with him and his wife in real life a couple times. So
Cool people.
Yeah, really nice guy. If you get the chance to meet him in real life, he's just a really great guy. So
I would love to. I'd love that. There's a lot of guys that love me. I wish they could have a based con near me.
Yeah.
And if it was in the Gulf South within a state of me, I would definitely go to it for sure. Just don't do it until I got a book to bring with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We sort of felt the same way.
Yeah. It's a little too far for us to make it with little kids and stuff too. So
yeah, I like a good road trip too, but Michigan and Wisconsin, and it's a bit much for me, especially with the price of gas and whatever.
Oh, you're in are you in Louisiana?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been to Louisiana.
Got some good food down here.
Yeah,
Best food on God's green earth.
I was there freshman year for spring break.
Yeah, a New Orleans
It was a lot
trip.
of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, my condolences.
We went through the state. The end goal was New Orleans, but we stopped at some other places too. Yeah. Had some really good food.
Oh, we get the best food in the world. Even our box food makes other places restaurant food look like dog food in comparison.
I was in Florida for a spring break trip, and it was a road trip, so we drove down to Florida from Wisconsin, and we found a really nice like Cajun, little hole-in-the-wall Cajun restaurant in Pensacola where we were at, and that was great. So I would love to come to Louisiana and have like something that's even more authentic. I'm sure it would be great.
What's really interesting about our food down here is that some of the best food in the state is not even in restaurants. Some of the food in the state is just little hole in the walls in a strip mall next to a gas station and a shoe store. And you can go in there and it's just great, especially if you get something like boudin balls. And there was a clip from The Simpsons a few years ago where Homer was in New Orleans and he is just talking about everything he ate over and over again. Everything he was eating was an actual dish you could buy in New Orleans and near actual restaurants that are in New Orleans. And that was actually really nice of the creators of that to kind of showcase those restaurants. Because all the food we have. They didn't make the food look good though.
I suppose.
I was really lucky when we went that. It was part of a literature class, so we read a bunch of historic pieces that were pertinent to the South, and then
you toured.
And we toured literarily significant places, but the people that we went with cared about food, and so and they had been there before, and so they took us to hole in the wall places like that. And then when we stayed, we were not in a hotel, we were in a guest house, and our hosts, I don't know the right term for it, they cooked a bunch of crayfish. We call them crayfish, crawdads. Is that
they're typically just called crawfish down here.
Crawfish, okay.
Crawdads is not technically wrong, but crayfish is. You'll never hear anyone in Louisiana say it like that.
Right.
Yeah. When we went to the little hole in the wall Cajun place in Florida, my friend ordered a whole bunch of crawfish, and they just came out just in a pile on a newspaper.
Yeah.
And he had eaten them before, so he knew how to like take them apart and everything. I was just enjoying my gumbo. I didn't really want to.
Yeah, that's the proper way to eat it. They come right out the pot. They get dumped on the table with the newspaper, and we just eat them like
they were
that.
just that was how it was for us too. Like it was just dumped out.
Yeah.
They were all red and spicy.
Now I'll give viewers a little bit of a tip. If you ever see anybody sprinkle stuff onto crawfish before they shell them, that is wrong. That is abhorrent. You want to talk about evil? That is definitely that's Cajun horror right there. Because for some reason they think you're not really spicing. You're not really seasoning the meat. The meat gets seasoned when it's boiled. And putting stuff on top of the shell just puts seasoning on your fingers. That's really the only thing it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's nonsensical to me, and I can't believe that people actually do it. It's just ridiculous. Hey, TJ Marquis, how are you, man?
Let's see. Yeah, TJ's
Good
just
to see you.
stopping by. He's close down there. He's in Florida.
Yeah.
Gulf. You can still find some okay Cajun food in the Gulf South, because some Cajuns will just transplant to another state. Never trust anything from Alabama, though. They're completely wrong in everything they do. They put tomato sauce in their jambalaya, like my wife's family does, and that is also wrong and abhorrent and evil. And I rebuke it in the name of Creole Jesus.
Have you ever been to Lambert's Cafe in Alabama?
No, I can't say I have.
Okay, so it's this place we went. It was like the big tradition when people went to Florida on spring break. It's this cafe where it's the home of the throwed roll. So you order your food, and then they serve the dinner rolls by throwing them to you. So you just when you just hold up your hand, and then they toss it to you.
That got to work for your food a little bit. That's nice. I mean, I do it if they're good enough. Texas Roadhouse, they don't throw them to you, but they're really good. They're really good rolls over there.
Yeah.
Might be a big chain, but they're still delicious. And man, they make some good surf and turf.
I don't think we're quite as territorial, or like there's not like food rivalries so much up here.
Yeah. We don't have a lot of
very bland.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of like distinctive local food in Wisconsin. It's more
cheese.
It's like cheese, like burgers, like there's a few burger chains that came from Wisconsin, like Culver's, that are pretty famous. And then it's just a lot of like, I don't like ethnic German food.
Potato salad,
and it's very bland. So the best food around here is like in big cities where you have, like Indian food or Chinese food, or
that's the food people are thinking of when they say white people don't season their food. So these are people who have never met Cajuns before.
Yeah.
Beer resident one says beer, cheese, sausage. Treasure cheesehead pride. Oh, okay.
Treasure cheesehead pride.
Everyone's got something. Be proud, own it, and be proud of it. I say, but. What can I say? I grew up around this food. It's delicious. It's wonderful. And I'm always willing to try something new, but it depends on what it is. No mountain oysters for me, thanks.
And Sam Goyer, we're actually too far north for Cracker Barrel.
Really?
Yeah.
We stop there when we go to visit my grandparents.
Yeah, the closest Cracker Barrel to us is like very southern Wisconsin. So we're very close to the Twin Cities, like the capital of Minnesota. So we're too far north.
Cracker Barrel is it's in the sink at the moment, but my coffee cup that's in like my intros and on my thumbnails, that was a Cracker Barrel purchase. They have a little gift shop in there, and I saw it. I'm like, I just like the look of this. I need to buy another one because there are parts of it that are getting chipped, just being used so much. But depending on what you get at Cracker Barrel, it depends on how good it is. They have a chicken pot pie that is just delicious, but you got to get it. Don't wait till supper time to order it, because they make only so many of them every day, and when they run out, they just run out. They're not going to make another one. The breakfast food's pretty decent.
I always get the I think they call it Grandpa's breakfast or something there. It's got like fried chicken tenderloins, which is not really like a thing too much around here, so that's really good. and like fried apples and grits and stuff. Like it's all food that isn't really, it's good and it's not really too far off from what people eat around here, but it's not. It's like not things like people don't make fried chicken tenderloins for breakfast,
Right.
or grits aren't really a thing. People like I never had grits growing up. We had oatmeal and multi-meal and cold cereal.
Grits are fine, but you gotta, to get them really tasty, you gotta put probably more butter than most people are willing to put in
Yeah.
any food. And now some people have. I apologize for that. My little ones are having the time of their lives. They're
No
homeschooled, so
problem.
no, that's not their bedtime.
No problem.
Some people,
as long as they're not my kids.
Yeah.
Cheesy grits are pretty good too, but
Yeah.
if you want like just basic grits, put a couple scoops of butter in there. You got to get it really buttery, and don't let it sit too long. Because if you let it sit too long, it kind of gets like a Jello mold. That's the key to grits. The key to good grits is getting them fresh right off the pot.
Mm-hmm.
You wait too long, and then you got to chop it up, and then it's just not as enjoyable.
Multi-meal is kind of like that. It kind of congeals, but I kind of like it like that and with milk in it. So I don't know. Do people ever make like spicy grits?
If they do, I've never tasted it. A lot of people put pepper in their grits just to give it a little more taste, but spicy grits, I don't think so. It is a breakfast food.
Yeah, I really like spicy food, so I could eat spicy.
This is actually making me want grits now. I might
Yeah.
have
I know, right?
Andrew Campbell's asking what grits actually are. Grits is it's made out of corn, essentially, and it's called grits because that's the texture. It's kind of gritty, but I don't know how else to explain grits. I know it's derived of corn.
Yeah.
And it's kind of soupy like oatmeal. Think of it as another form of oatmeal in a way, but it's made with corn instead of oats.
It really reminds me a lot of multi-meal. I mean, I know it probably varies a lot how you could make it, but like for sure the grits that you get at Cracker Barrel remind me a lot of multi-meal.
Cracker Barrel definitely don't get the chicken and dumplings because their dumplings are like these flat flour breads. I don't understand, and they don't look appetizing, and they don't taste much better. If you ever go to Cracker Barrel, I do recommend they got a lot of really good sides.
Yeah,
that'll come with their meals. But I definitely recommend the chicken pot pie, and that'll come by itself, and that'll be like your whole meal. Bring your appetite because it takes a little bit to polish that off. Really, really good.
Have you ever gotten that? Because you like chicken. I don't really like chicken pot pie.
I only ever get breakfast food because we're always driving, and
yeah.
I can't stand to eat anything except breakfast food. And when I talk breakfast food, I mean sweet.
Like
I dump sugar
on it and stuff. But we whenever we're driving through, south of us, we always stop at Cracker Barrel at least once or twice because it's not something that we have near us.
Came to find out because I never looked at the fine print. It's not 100% maple syrup that they give you.
No.
It's 100% syrup.
Yeah.
It's not 100% maple syrup. I was shocked and scandalized.
I ordered some real maple syrup from up near the Canadian border. And like the consistency was different. The taste was different. We were like, kind of like that regular syrup a little bit better. It's definitely a lot tastier. I appreciate that, that they made the syrup. It's nice that they can, as long as it's not cane syrup, because
I'm not a huge fan of real maple syrup myself, but she is, and her dad actually makes it. He's got a couple of maple trees that he taps.
Yeah, silver maples. This year, he had an acquaintance who has sugar maples, and his wife had a baby right during boiling season, and he was like, "I have all this sap. Do you want it? Otherwise, I'm going to dump it." And my dad,
he actually builds a fire.
He's got like
a little stove.
Yeah, he's got like this jury-rigged stove.
Yeah, it's like a barrel stove.
Yeah, barrel stove.
And he puts it
interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You talk about restaurants that aren't local to you. You know where I've never eaten at? I've managed to eat at a In-N-Out Burger. What's that other one that's only on the East Coast? It's a burger joint.
Is that the shake one? Steak
no,
and shake?
No, we got a Steak and Shake near us.
Whataburger? Whataburger's down by you, right?
I've got some Whataburgers, and they're delicious. I do like them. There's In-N-Out. It's like a rivalry between In-N-Out and Five Guys. I've tried Five Guys. I wasn't real impressed with them, but I've never had In-N-Out burger. And everybody's all like, "Oh, they're the best burgers in the world."
Yeah.
And for some reason, the In-N-Out guy who owns it says they'll never go past like Texas. So I'm like, "Well, shoot."
Yeah.
That kind of makes me want it more a little much, but I'm not driving past Texas for In-N-Out. I don't care how good it is.
I don't think I've ever had In-N-Out either, because I've never been to Texas. I've been further east. I've had Whataburger, and I thought it was good. It reminded me a lot of Burger King, Whataburger. And
they're still one of the best. They still have a really good, like, I've become disenchanted with a lot of burger joints.
Yeah.
But Whataburger is still like, they're a little pricey, but man,
yeah.
It's always worth it when we go by it.
Yeah.
And
we like Five Guys quite a bit. There's a Five Guys in our town, and it's expensive, but I think it's very fresh, and you get a lot of food too. And it's kind of different.
Yeah. I tried them. I was not impressed. Like, it was just like every other burger I've ever eaten. Nothing about it really stood out. Way back in the mid 2000s, I had a friend from New York City who, when he came down here to go on vacation, stay with us for a week, he told me, he said, "Look, the first thing we do when we get back to your house, I want to find a Sonic." Because apparently in New York City, they play Sonic commercials, but they don't have a Sonic near him. And he's always wanted to try them. And so I bring him to Sonic, and he's digging the vibe there. He's like, "What should I eat?" I said, "Okay, just get a basic burger, or get some, they got patty melts and this." I laced off all things. He's like, "I'll get the chicken tenders." I'm like,
"No."
Okay. And he got to me. He's like, "I wasn't impressed." I said, "Well, it's chicken tenders." It's like, Sonic's chicken tenders are nothing to write home about. Sorry, bro.
Oh man.
There's not too many Sonics around here. It's not someplace. I think I've eaten there once.
Their burgers are still good.
Yeah. I liked it. I don't remember too much about it.
We had this one. I don't know if y'all ever heard of them. We had this one place down here, and they only had like drive-through only buildings. They were called Fast Track. And Fast Track,
that does not familiar.
Fast Track, like, they have really good, juicy, delicious burgers. They were guilty pleasures, but they were the first place to start serving seasoned fries instead of regular fries. And their milkshakes were delicious, were just absolutely amazing. And they went out of business, and I miss them to this day because they were so damn good.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
They're building. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna pull up Andrew Campbell's thing I noticed in the US is that the fast food and high-end food is amazing, but the places like Olive Garden are terrible. Olive Garden's pretty bland as far as.
Yeah, I wouldn't I wouldn't really call any place terrible, but you just have to know what to expect.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Places like Olive Garden and Applebee's, they're kind of fun once in a while just for something different, but the
burger there is not going to be automatically better.
I have given Applebee's several tries because the commercials always make their food look pretty decent, and every time I've been disappointed, and I just don't go back. I like Chili's a lot better.
Yeah, Chili's is nice. Chili's is nice. We have Applebee's in our town that we like to go to sometimes. It's kind of fun because it's not very expensive.
You're welcome to it.
Yeah, not very expensive. So if you don't like what you get, you're not out too much.
Yeah, but I don't usually get a burger there because the burger's just not going to be anything to write home about, right? I usually get like ribs or wings or stuff like that.
Yeah, which is hard to screw up.
Right.
Well, guys, listen, this has been a lot of fun. I think I've got some people off screen are kind of trying to signal to me that they need me for stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and skedaddle for the time being. But thank you for letting me come on and chit chat for a little bit. And anytime if I'm ever live and y'all see it and y'all want to come on, you got an open invite, please.
Thank
sure.
you. Yeah. I'm glad that you said something because
Yeah, we always mean to try to have more people on, so it was fun to actually do it.
I just happened to be in a position where, I just got done filming my new video and everything was all set up and I was, presentable. I said, hey, y'all want someone to bounce a few ideas off of. You got a wonderful audience and everything. And I'm gonna go and I'm gonna put in a few more chapters of this because
Yeah.
we're gonna be talking about this at some point.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to read these for a while, so
Me too.
put these under my
this is a
belt.
good opportunity.
So y'all have a good night. It was good talking
Yeah,
to
you
you.
too.
See ya. All right, should we do our little book haul and then
Real quick.
call it good? Yeah.
This is,
We'll do all of the comics some other time.
Yeah.
So we won't do that. Which is there a stack that you want?
no particular
Or
order.
just give you that first.
Sure.
I'm gonna grab another one.
So I grabbed
And this is all from BAM and
Half Price Books.
Half Price Books. So BAM is like Books a Million. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's a thing. Other parts of
I have no idea.
they're kind of like a Barnes and Noble, but they also have used books. And I think what you bought was either used or discount stuff from there. Right?
Discount.
Yeah.
Yep. So this, I bought this. David has the whole set,
Yeah. That's the set I had down.
and I do not need it.
But you like that. You're
The Hobbit is
Hobbit's
my favorite.
Your favorite, so you kind of
So,
collect extra copies. of
Yep.
them.
So I
And it
grabbed
was
another copy.
It was $3.50.
Yep.
A lot of these things, it's really hard to argue with a couple bucks.
Mm-hmm.
So
That'll go right there.
you can just.
I
I
also-
only have a couple. So
I also grabbed Master of Middle Earth by Paul H. Kocher. He's a literature guy. So I got that. And then I keep meaning to learn Japanese. So I've got several books, and this was $2. So
it's really cute. It's like a tiny Japanese dictionary?
no, it's
Or
phrases.
Phrases?
They're in Romanji, which is if you're trying to learn to actually read Japanese is suboptimal. But yeah, it's
really cute.
It's really cute. So I grabbed it.
Easy Japanesey.
I when we went to Japan back before we had kids, ahead of time I did wanikani. And I got several lessons under my belt, and it was enough to get us around the country. But I have several books, and I keep intending to get back into it. But, I have 2 series by Stephen R. Lawhead, but I didn't have his King Arthur one. So I grabbed all 3. It's paperback, so I think one of the series I have is in hardcover. There's the 3rd one. And I did read these. It was a while ago, so I don't really remember what they're about. So someday
they're about Arthur and Merlin.
What? All right.
Spoiler warning.
And then at BAM in the discount section, I found the 2nd and 3rd books in Sebastian D. Castell's Greatcoats series, which is kind of Three Musketeers-esque type stuff.
And you don't have the first one.
I don't have the first one. I will fix that. And then the first book in his Spellcaster. The first book is Spellslinger. doesn't say. It's because it's the first book. This one's hardcover, so I was pleased. I haven't read this series,
Is Trader's Blade the first book in
Yes.
this? Okay, that's the one that I've heard of. Then.
Yeah. So I was pleased.
You read Trader's Blade, right?
Oh yeah, I read this whole series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Trader's Blade series. Not Trader's, the Great Coat series. I and my mom read when it first came out, I think. Or, when the third one came out, because my mom only reads complete series.
All right. So I just remembered I had started putting away.
Oh, yeah.
Out, so, okay. So I just got a few things. I've been buying a whole ton of comics, and I'm going to do a live stream on my channel at some point, maybe, to talk about them, because basically what I've been doing is I've been trying to collect and read all of the first or maybe second generation of series from Image Comics, so stuff from 1992, 1993, and I'm really having a lot of fun doing that. You can find most of it in clearance $1 or 50-cent bins, and I don't have a lot of time to read, so it's been fun to read comics. And you can read a couple issues a day and feel like you accomplished something, so that's been fun. So I've been collecting a bunch of comics from these different places. I'll show this some other times, but this is the non comic book stuff. I'll show the actual books. So this is the first thing that we found. So I think you saw this.
Someone else was holding it.
Someone else was holding it,
and they were
put it
like,
back.
"Look at this!"
Yeah.
Wow.
So
and then they went to put it back on this
yeah.
cart. It wasn't on a shelf. It was on a cart. And
Yeah.
I was just like, just give it right here.
Yeah. And so if you remember last time we had that cool A New Hope book. I should actually, well, I don't need to grab it. This is the same book, but for Empire Strikes Back. And this one is hardcover. They only wanted $3 for this. It is smelly, so it's gonna be a little bit of work maybe to deodorize it. But it's it's in good shape. It's not, it's not stained or anything. And this is really fun. It's like a storybook version of Star Wars, and from right when the movie came out, because this is copyright 1980. And it's a quite detailed text telling of the story with a lot of really nice images from the movie. The A New Hope one was really cool because it actually has some deleted scenes in it, like the part where Luke goes to talk to Wedge. So this was just kind of an obvious pickup, something to read to our daughter, and just a cool thing to have for $3. I really hope I can get it to stop smelling though. So
Sam Goyer says, "Yeah, I can smell it from here."
Yeah. The next thing I found was this Star Wars Essential Guide to Characters book. So I've been collecting different kinds of reference books from different things like Star Wars and Battletech for my project. Not too long ago, I got this Essential Guide to Vehicles, which is a book that I used to check out from the library a lot as a kid, or actually get through interlibrary loan, because it's so cool that they didn't have it at our library. It's got all these ship schematics and the drawings by Doug Chang, and text about the books. And this covers stuff from the movies and the expanded universe. So this book, I think, is from, I want to say 96. So I had gotten this, 96. I had gotten this on eBay a while back, and then I saw this. These books are kind of hard to find in good shape. A lot of them are kind of beat up. So I saw a nice copy of this at Half Price Books, so I wanted to snag it. It's got all the different characters, and then the original. This one is, I think, the first in this series, and it's dated 1995. The thing that I noticed about this book when I got it home, and I have to look to see because I know they've put out newer editions, much more recently, in the last 10 years. The interesting thing about this one is it doesn't have any characters from Shadows of the Empire. So, and Shadows of the Empire is kind of one of my favorite Star Wars extended universe things. So that was a little bit of a disappointment to discover, but it's still a really cool book. And it's also kind of interesting in that it was written in that time before things started ramping up after Shadows of the Empire, before like the launch of the special editions of the original trilogy. So it kind of captures an interesting time in Star Wars. So there's that. And then the last thing that I got, so I've been buying like individual issues of comics. They had a couple of these Spawn Origins collections. So this one is volume 1 for issues 1 through 6. And this one is for volume 2 for issues 7 through 9 and 11 through 14. The thing with Spawn is that of all of the Image comic series, it's like the most expensive to collect the original issues. I think like the first issue of Spawn typically goes for like $30 or $40, and like issues 2 and 3 are like $10 or $20 each, so it's kind of expensive. So for the price basically of less than half of one issue, I've got like the first 10 or so, actually more than 10, because what did I say? The
11.
second one goes through 14. So
Oh, I thought you said 12.
yeah, it leaves out 10. But I wanted to grab these because, like I said, I'm trying to collect and read the first few, and just paging through them. The sometimes like when they reprint comics, the colors are kind of like weird or whatever. These look as really good as far as I know what Image comics look like. They look nice, and I also am not like the hugest fan of Spawn from what I know about it. I find it really interesting, and I like the story of Todd McFarlane and other stuff, but I didn't want to spend, like $100 on the first few issues of Spawn for something that I didn't really like. But I have to say, I've read most of volume 1, and it's really, really good. So I might have to walk back on that and track down those first couple issues to have as part of my collection at some point. Not right now, because I've got these to read. So yeah, I read most of this. It was really good. And then the interesting thing that I wanted to point out about the second volume is that after the first few issues, Todd McFarlane started getting other comic writers to write Spawn. So issue 8 is written by Alan Moore, issue 9 is written by Neil Gaiman, and issue 11 is written by Frank Miller. And I think issue 10, which is in here, was written by Dave Sim. That issue is all by itself. So
why didn't they include it?
It had, just for licensing reasons, it has it's Dave Sim, right? Yeah, it has Dave Sim's character Cerebus in it.
Okay.
And there just might be different licensing issues, and it's kind of a side story that I guess it doesn't really, like, Spawn kind of goes to the world of Cerebus.
Oh.
So it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the rest of the story. Like the other issues, even though they're written by these creators, kind of do follow the arc of the story. So, but it's kind of a cool thing to have. And I guess, like, whatever you think of the story, and I was actually pretty impressed by it, but the art is really, really cool. So I'm just glad to pick these up for pretty cheap and have them on my shelf.
Yeah. Cool.
Sam agrees that he believes that those are the best ones. Yeah. Yeah, I was really impressed by like issues 1 through 4. I saw like most of the Spawn movie, and I didn't like it. And I know it's like not really well liked, but I was really not impressed with it. And from like what I've just read about the Spawn story, it just didn't grab me, but it was really compelling. Like how Spawn doesn't understand his powers. He's regaining his memories. I'm kind of a sucker for stories about like people with amnesia regaining their memories, and there's just a lot of really compelling stuff in it. So I so far it's a recommendation. I mean, so this book you can get on Amazon for like $10. So if you're at all curious about Spawn, this is kind of a no-brainer, I think.
I guess there's an animated series.
Yeah. I'm interested in checking that out at some point too, especially after reading this, because I've heard it's good. Like I said, I really was not impressed by the movie, but I've heard that the animated series is really good, and I really liked what I read of this. So,
all right, that covers everything that we had intended to talk about, and a good deal of food, which was a welcome traipse into.
Yeah. Very hungry now.
I know. I've been trying to do this thing where I don't eat after 7. It's really hard.
Big mistake. I
eat all the good food after the kids go to bed, and now I have no opportunity to do so. I have coming soon a indie book haul, which is completely indie. I spent about $100 again, and I'll they are all books that I have already read and reviewed, so that will be fun. I liked doing it last time and decided again. Other things, we will continue with the Lego streams. We've just been busy with other things lately. Like David said, bought a lot of cool comics and things, and thinking about maybe doing a stream on his channel, his YouTube channel, about those.
Yep. Yeah, I've got a bunch of comics, and I also have a bunch of kind of video game and game reference manual type stuff that I got for my project, which I'll talk more about on that channel at some point. But I need to kind of sit and look through it and take some notes on my own, and then I want to share it with you guys, because I think it's some kind of cool stuff that you don't see too much and people don't talk about, but it's stuff that is really kind of inspired me in my current projects. And since I was a little kid, that kind of stuff inspired me a lot in my creative work. So wanted to share it and talk about it. So,
and then John was waving around his copy of Dan the Destructor. I left mine upstairs. We are doing a book club. So right now we're in the reading stage of the book club. And then July 6th, myself, John, TJ Marquis, and Royce from A Drink with Crazy, we're going to do a live stream discussion. And I have a Gilded set up with a place to talk about the book while we're doing it. If people are interested in that, you can reach out to me and I will shoot you a link. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to make sure to talk about. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We had a lot of fun. It was great to have John on.
Mm-hmm.
And be sure to check out his video as well when that goes up, because I think it's on what indies have to offer that TriedPub doesn't.
Yeah, and definitely subscribe to his channel if you aren't already, and follow him on Twitter. I saw a couple people from our chat going over to follow him on Twitter, so that's cool. I sometimes just assume that, like, since we're a little bit smaller, like there's just a total overlap between our audiences, but there isn't. So it's really cool to see people discovering. So he has a lot of videos about writing and reviewing, and he talks a lot about the same kind of stuff that we do.
Yeah, he does reviews as well. Yeah,
he's more of a fantasy indie fantasy buff, like, and I think he reads more. Like, we tend to kind of focus on smaller indie authors. He does more of runs the gamut of indie fantasy into some like people who are like a lot bigger and more successful. So definitely, if you like indie, check his stuff out.
Yeah, he might be. I'm not sure. misspeaking here, but I think he's got a slightly narrower genre focus.
Yeah, he does he talks about role playing games and stuff too.
Yeah.
I know, like he had a stream or a video a long time ago about like he was reviewing some Critical Role stuff, and I know he's a fan of a lot of different things that are kind of outside of our wheelhouse. So definitely check his channel out if you're into that stuff.
All right, you guys have a great night, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, catch you later.